This was probably one of the most dangerous and dumbest thing I've ever done in my service. Down in Gaza, I'm in this man's backyard. I see the man in the window and he looks outside, and I knew for a split of a second that I gotta react quickly, so I roll over and I lean on the wall, and he's above me right now. Now if he would have saw me, he would have undoubtedly emptied his entire magazine into my head. So I'm leaning on the wall, he's above me, and I reach to my gun, and in that moment I stopped and I said, Mansu, don't do anything stupid. We're not starting a gunfight here. Welcome back, guys. My name is Mansu, a former IDF officer and a member of the Israeli Special Forces. Now let me tell you one of the craziest, dumbest, and most dangerous thing that I've done in my service. Friday morning, Gaza. I wake up for a phone call in the morning by the commander of the armed forces of southern Gaza, the brigadier. And he tells me, come to my office. And I'm thinking, oh boy, what did I do this time? So I go to his office and he tells me, sit down. He says, you were in the Special Forces, right? And I said, yes, sir. We're having the Golani Brigade coming right now to take over Givati. Now let me tell you something about Golani and Givati. Golani are very good in the Golan Heights. They were not doing too well in Gaza. Givati were excellent in Gaza, but they had to do the shift change. Sometimes they rotate. The new brigade of Golani was coming, and that commander tells me, I want you to test them. I want you to give them a good test and a good wake-up call. Welcome to Gaza. So I look at the commander and I say, sir, if I'm to do this, I'm going to do it my way. No wishy-washy, no shortcuts, as realistic as possible. And he looks at me and he tells me, you have the green light. What a mistake to tell someone like me that you have a green light. Man. Yeah, that was a big mistake. So I run to the office of my friend who was the intelligence officer of the region of Gaza. And I open his door and tell him, listen, buddy, now is your chance. You can either stay here stuck in your maps and your computers, or you come with me and we go boots on the ground and we do a training for these guys, and you get to properly experience reality in Gaza, boots on the ground. Now, to many of these officers, this is a golden opportunity. They don't get to go too much into combat, into the real field. And for them, it's not only interesting, but it's also very helpful, because later on when they train their soldiers or they do their briefings, they know better how things work. Because there's one thing knowing things because you read it in a book, and there's another thing knowing things because you actually walked it. So he got super excited. So I take him there. Now here was my challenge. Bedouin Muslim IDF trackers. These guys are just amazing at what they do. You can't outrun them. You can't hide from them. They will find you. They will catch you. How do I overcome the trackers? So we got with the Jeep, I stopped it by the bush, and then I come in and tell him, jump on my back. It's like, what? Jump on my back, I'm gonna piggyback you. What? Jump on my back. So I piggybacked them and I ran all the way to the fence. Now you see they have this soft sand. When you have the border, you usually have this area of like 10 meters maybe long, soft sand. So if someone jumps over the fence, you can find his footprints very easy, and they keep cleaning it every day. So you can literally see if it was a human, if it was a bird, if it was a snake. Carrying on my back, I went and I shook the fence, and then I ran south straight into the bush. When I got in the bush, I threw my friend in the bush. He fell down in the bush, and I told him, listen, you go south, I go north. Now, little did he know, I was kind of using him as a bait. I mean, I gave him the proper chance like I had, but I had the feeling that they're probably going to catch him pretty fast. And I was hoping that they might not know that it was two. Little bit of context, I am playing the role of a Hamas terrorist who is infiltrating Israel, and he's gonna go to one of these settlements and try to kill civilians or maybe fight the IDF, and they need to come and stop me, because that was the job of Golani over there, to basically protect the settlements and protect the IDF. Minutes after I shook that fence, I hear on the radio while I'm running that the Bedouins have just reported that they believe it's two people, not one. One was carrying the other as a piggyback, and one went south. They're still trying to find the footprints of the second person. They just arrived there in a matter of seconds. They were able to track in the sand and see the footprints were too deep. The heel was dug in too fast. The steps were not as far from each other as you would expect someone who's alone and right now full of adrenaline. And all these things, in a lifelong of training and a very keen eye, they were able to spot that it was two people, not even one. So good job. The Muslim Bedouin trackers of the IDF are just amazing, Olympic level. So as I was running, I'm right now about 100 meters away from the fence, and I see a fence of an Israeli settlement. So to spice it even more up, I reach here. We're gonna really show these Golani that they gotta up their game. I jump over the fence and I'm running inside the settlement right now. I don't know what was I thinking. It was a Friday night, and I see a silhouette of a family in a window, and the father was going and giving food to his family on the table, and he just looks outside the window, and in that moment I just dropped into the ground, and he started coming close to the window. So I crawled really fast, and I basically rolled over, and I'm stuck on the wall right now. He's above me looking outside the window, and I knew right now that I have just done a dire mistake. You see, they don't know that this is an exercise. If he sees me, undoubtedly he will unload his entire magazine into my face. As he's coming closer to the window, I'm glued to the wall under the window, and out of instinct I reach to my weapon, and then I stopped and said, Mansu, we're not starting a gunfight right now. This is a terrible situation that you got yourself into, but you gotta get yourself out of there because you are literally in the worst life-threatening scenario possible. He's not your enemy, but he will think that you are his enemy. So if he starts trying to fight with you, what are you gonna do? I thought, what are the options that I have? I can stand up and tell him tsahal, tsahal, but you know, he might be one of these guys of shoot first, ask question later, and understandably, this is literally his backyard in Gaza. I won't hold it against him if he will shoot first and ask questions later. I was quiet like a ghost, standing there on the wall, crawling into the wall basically as he was looking, bringing my knees as close as I can so even if he looks with the angle of 45 degrees, he will not see my boots. And after a few dreadful seconds, he went back to his family and he kept serving the Shabbat dinner, and I just crawled out of there thinking, wow, that was definitely one of the dumbest things I've done in my service. Now, I'm already inside the settlement. So basically the Golani have failed in this exercise. They weren't able to stop me before going in and potentially harming civilians. As if that was not enough. So I start crawling up a hill to get a better view of the area, of the terrain. And I see the entire Golani command outpost with their armored vehicles, their jeeps, their personnel carriers, all under there in a perimeter, and they have a few soldiers guarding it. And in the distance, I see my friend, the intelligence officer, being dragged, basically handcuffed, and his head is covered, and he's been taken for interrogation, probably trying to ask him where I am. And I hear in the radio that the Bedouin trackers are still trying to look for me, and they're closing in. They're closing in, and I decided, you know what, let's really test these Golani guys. Let's go full on and give them a proper feedback of what they should improve for next time, because in my eyes, everything that I was doing right now will help save lives later. If they fail with me, they can do their own lesson learned and not fail with someone else. So I'm crawling right now, going as close as I can to that command chain. So I'm going to try to take their entire command chain. 2 Golani guards over here, 1 Golani guard over there, and the others on the other side. And I'm about 4 to 3 meters away from them. They haven't seen me yet. And in that moment, the brigadier, he calls me on the radio. And I had the earpiece. And he's telling me, where are you? And I tell him, I'm right under the Golani guards, next to their command center. What do you want me to do? And tell me, okay, let's wrap it up. Go and try to make as much damage as you can, and let's finish with this, because I'm pissed. And I says, oh boy, this is gonna be an interesting night. So I go out of the bush, 1, 2, 3, and I take down these 3 guards. I tell them, sit down, you're dead, don't say a word. And I start running to the truck full of soldiers. I come in, I take a few more guards. I tell them, okay, guys, you're down. It's all drill. You know, I'm just telling them, you're down, you're down. They go down. I come in close to the door. There's a bunch of Golani soldiers sitting in that protected vehicle. I imitate a throw of a grenade inside. All of them are down. And then I run into the command outpost. And in that moment, they just called the drill off. It was a catastrophe. And everybody says, Khadal, 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 stop it. Now, what really bothered me is later on in the briefing room, in the war room, we're sitting there, and the brigadier is pissed, and the Golani commanders and officers are all kind of, embarrassed. And he comes in and tells him, one guy managed to infiltrate 600 meters behind the fence. He went through a settlement, and he went all the way to you guys, and it took half of your force down. How can you explain that to me? And he's giving him the looks. And the commander of Golani told him basically the dumbest answer that he can give him. He said, well, what do you want? This guy's a special forces. This is not an average Gaza Hamas guy. This is not a realistic scenario. It really bothered me, that kind of answer. And luckily for me, the brigadier here, he was experienced. He was an old dog. And he told him, that's the last time I want to hear that kind of an excuse. You need to be prepared for every scenario possible. It could be some simple farmer. It could be some elite soldier. It doesn't matter what. You need to be prepared. And you failed in your job. Do a proper analysis, and I want to see a report on my desk. It is safe to say that for the next few months, the officers in Golani were not very happy with me. I mean, I managed to fix my relationship with them. It took me a while, but in the end, we became good friends. But long story short, this was undoubtedly one of the dumbest, most dangerous things that I've done in my service. Thanks for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed that story. Oh, and before I forget, if you don't mind doing the whole shebang, like, share, leave a comment. It helps the algorithm and help the channel keep growing. And if you want to find a practical, direct way to help me and this channel, go and check my Patreon, where you can find practical ways to support my work. Because after all, I am doing this for free and out of my own free time. But until then, don't do anything stupid in general. Just don't do anything that I would do. And I think that was probably a prime example of what you should not do. Stay safe. See you next time.